He was born a draper's son, apprenticed at 14, and told that he would never run his own jewellery business. I'm Matthew Weldon, and today on Gem Pursuit, we are going to be tracing how Frederic Boucheron built one of the greatest French jewellery houses the world has ever seen, and it's still going almost 170 years later. Fenia, there's so many great jewellery houses in the world, and in our last series we did some of the really big ones, your Cartier, your Van Cleef, your Tiffany & Co, your Harry Winston, and your Fabergé, right? But I remember at the time that we did struggle to actually pick the 5 that we were going to do because there was so many other good ones. This one today is one of my favourites, and it's one of my favourites of the firm favourites. And French firm do some of the most innovative and creative jewellery and very striking pieces as well. Tell the listeners here, who are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're talking about Boucheron.
Boucheron, a famous store on the corner of Place Vendome, which is in Paris a very famous square, or if you're in Spain you'd call it a plaza. In Italy it'd be called a piazza. In France it's called a place. Let's just talk about maybe the origin and the history of Boucheron and how they got to be where they are today.
He strikes me as somebody who's very hardworking and very charming, but also very kind towards his employees and the people he collaborates with. And it's always a pleasure studying somebody who seems so nice in general, not only like a very talented craftsman and jeweler, but also like an intelligent person, business savvy, but also kind to the people he works with. So very excited about this episode. Born in Paris, 1830. Now, the son of a draper, if that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, draper.
A draper, which is basically a dressmaker. Is that correct, Matthew?
Yeah, someone who works fundamentally with fabrics.
With fabrics. So from a very early stage in his life, Frederic Boucheron was like exposed to the world of fashion. And he continued throughout his career trying to make women look as fantastic as he possibly could. He broke the family tradition, though, and decided to go down the road of jewelry making. Very impressive. At the age of 14, he managed to secure an internship, very young, an internship with a very respected jeweler back in the day. And let's make a deal, Matthew. Let's make a deal about today's episode.
Okay.
How about I talk about the people with general terms? You pronounce all the French names, all the French terms.
I can happy to do that deal, Fenia. I can't promise you that they'll be done correctly, but I'll give it a whirl.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so the name of this jeweler who took Boucheron under his wing is
I've just read it. Oh no, this
Gilles. Is it Gilles?
Go on, yeah. Give it Jules.
Says.
What are you?
Matthew, you're the one who supposedly has a C1 in French.
Jules Chaise.
Says.
Chaise.
Jules Chaise.
Which I think could mean that would be my best pronunciation. Chaise I think means chair, which is interesting.
So Jules says a very respected jeweler and draughtsman, and that's very important for Boucheron's journey because the young boy learned how to design properly under the guidance of this particular man. So an important milestone in his journey as a craftsman. Moving on forward in time, he manages to secure a position as a sales assistant at a very respected establishment as well. The Parisian house, now that's a difficult one.
Tissier Deschamps.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, but I mean, this is at the age of 23. So he started when he was 14, right? He got an apprenticeship at 14, and then he worked his way up. And at the age of 23, he left his apprenticeship with Jules Chaise, which was important because this guy was great at what he did. So he learned a lot there.
Yes. By the way, I did some research about Jules Chaise, and you can find gorgeous pieces at the V&A.
Really?
Yeah, if you search, he has like beautiful miniature bracelets. So gold bracelets, elaborate carvings, and like miniature portraits of his clients. So if you search and go to at the V&A website, you'll find many there. And also I think Christie's sold a lovely bracelet that he designed a couple of years ago in the form of like intertwined serpents. So yeah, very good at his craft for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up his mark now and keep it, because some of those, like, everybody would be aware, and if you have an interest in jewelry, of the Boucheron mark, or the Cartier or Van Cleef. These great French jewelers of the late 19th century and 20th century. But some of these goldsmiths, especially Jules Chez, who trained Boucheron, some of his pieces would be really cool, I think, to come across. And then he worked with this Tissier Deschamps in the Palais Royal in Paris. So in the Palais Royal in Paris, there's like this long kind of, it's like a street that's got these like kind of arches, right?
Mhm.
And the shops are recessed into these kind of, almost like a promenade in a way. And this is where all the really high-end jewelry shops were at that time.
Yes.
And that's where he worked. Now, he worked there for quite a while, till 1858. And Deschamps sold the business to someone called Andre in 1858. And you can imagine how Boucheron felt then, the young Boucheron. He would invested so much time and energy, and was probably hoping that the business was offered to him,
Yes.
but it wasn't. And I've seen that exact same thing happened very close to us here
Yeah.
in I won't say exactly where,
Okay.
but there was a business. The owner was retiring. They had someone who worked in the shop for a number of years, like a decade, I think, or more. And when they went to sell it, they sold it to somebody else.
Okay, that's very disheartening, I have to say. Sounds frustrating.
Sounds right, but I think the mechanics of it are basically that an external buyer is going to pay more for it than someone who's in it, more or less.
I see.
But you know what they had to think about is the legacy. If you leave it with the people who are there, they'll probably keep it running better. So anyway, but that it's just interesting that it's how history repeats itself.
It makes sense, but I can understand why Boucheron might have felt a little bit disappointed. It's very interesting, almost a little bit funny, I would say, because there is this. I'm not sure if this is fact or not. I've seen it online, for example, in the website of Hancock's and in other places. There is this story that circulates that says that Deschamps believed that although Boucheron is very skilled at his job as a clerk and as a sales assistant, he's not cut out to be the proprietor of a business.
Interesting.
So maybe that's also the reason why he didn't sell the business to Boucheron, to the young man who was working with him for so long, because maybe he thought that he wasn't ready or well able to continue what he started himself.
Yeah, but isn't that like, you're working, it's like you're working with someone for so long, your relationship has already been established that he was always a trainee in Deschamps' eyes, always, even if he was perfectly well able.
Yeah.
No, he's not able. But whereas if someone, a third party, comes in who he doesn't know already, he'd be like, oh yeah, that person could be. They just don't see it, I'd say.
That was so Irish, by the way.
God, no, yeah.
The reason why I used the word funny before, while I was describing this story, is because if you search about Deschamps today, you will see that he's mostly famous for his association with Boucheron. He was very much respected back in the day, like a very well-established jeweler. The Palais Royal area was also like the place to be, so I assume that the fact that he had a shop there is an indication of how well he was doing in his business. However, if you search about him today, you will mostly see him being associated with his trainee. That's what he's most famous for today. And that's why I find the whole story quite funny.
History always takes a different angle. But
Yes.
So what happened though when he left, he didn't get the business, but Boucheron, I suppose, contrary to what Deschamps believed, he raised 100,000 francs and decided to set up by himself. 100,000 francs, I've looked it up, it says it's between $120,000 and $1.2 million, which is a pretty broad. That was an AI'd estimate of it. But let me see, historical currency converter. We'll have to look that up. Yeah, it's still pretty broad. It's a lot of money anyway. We'll come back. We'll have a look at that and see exactly what that value was. But he raised 100,000 francs from family, friends, seed money, and he opened his first boutique in 1858, which is exactly the year that Deschamps sold the business. So you can imagine he didn't get the business. He was like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Straight away. There was no handover period or anything like that. And his first boutique was in the Galerie de Valois in Palais Royal. And actually, there's a business today called Palais Royal, who are a very, very good jeweler based in Paris and New York, I think. And he had a carefully selected range of, curated pieces, because obviously he just set up the shop. He just got a seed money. He probably couldn't buy lots and lots of stock initially. But this is where his business acumen came into it. So he built up a lot of trust with people, and manufacturers brought them their latest creations, probably in small numbers to begin. And he had a good knack for selling. So he sold these, and then the people kept bringing him more pieces, leaving more of them there on, as they call in the trade, there's a thing called SOR, which is sale or return. Some people call it, if you're in the States, they call it on memo. I remember the first time I was in the States, someone said to me, "You want something on memo?" I was like, I was on memo. Like you're going to write me a note about it and tell me what I thought it was like a piece of paper, but a memo means it just, they lend something to you. Or in Europe, in English speaking Europe, what they tend to say is on appro, which is approbation. So the manufacturer still owns it, but you're selling it on behalf of that person. And that's what he did. So he had the shop and he could sell, and he took these pieces on appro, on memo, from these creators. He sold them, built up lots of trust, and then he got more and more stock in. So he didn't actually have to invest all the money into the stock.
Which is a very smart move, for sure. I'm really fascinated about this part of his story. I love the fact that he did not give up after 1858, when his employer did not choose him to continue the business. I love the fact that he set out to prove him wrong, basically, and he started gathering money, asking for money from friends, managed to open his own business. By the way, in the same place that his ex-employer used to have a shop as well. It's not the same gallery, but it's in the Palais Royal area.
Because he had the business.
Yeah.
He knew the clients, he knew the place. He was the energy of the business, because I'd say Deschamps, the way these things tend to go, and I'm not just speculating here, when someone's planning to sell, they tend to wind down and rely more on their manager.
Okay.
And the manager comes more and more to the fore, and knew all the clients, knew probably the workshops around the place. And so it would have been very easy to open up somewhere nearby. And then he, as I say, started building trust with these people. But the thing about it, what he did was clever, Fenia, is that he sold, I was going to say weird, unusual pieces of jewellery. So if it was a bit eccentric, very, striking to the eye, he was the man to sell it. So it was a bit of a thing. He'd know what pieces could sell, and they had to be, that slightly bit eccentric. And then he could take more of these eccentric pieces in. So he was clever. He wasn't just taking in anything, but that's where you can get wrong. If you, I've done this before myself. I've done it very recently, actually, and just reminds me I have to actually pay somebody to tell you about it. If you take an appro off someone, really you have to sell something from it, or sell a few pieces from it. If you go back to that person after a little while and haven't sold anything, they're not going to want to lend anything to you anymore. So you have to do something. So he developed a knack for selling the unusual things. And basically, it was more or less guaranteed that if you had something very striking, eccentric, left it with Frederic Boucheron, and he'd sell it for you. And then in 1866, a bit of a business change, he registered his own hallmark.
That's very important.
I know you're a fan of hallmarks now.
I am a fan of hallmarks, actually. Yeah. We have actually been talking about hallmarks in a recent course that we did on the art of memento mori and mourning jewelry here in Parscourt. And we have been examining a certain piece, a Victorian piece from the second half of the 19th century, that has very clear and very well preserved hallmarks. And we were explaining to the attendees, the people who attended the course, our students, that basically hallmarks are a form of consumer protection. and they're there to testify that a specific item is genuinely like made out of gold. It testifies the purity of gold. It links the items to a certain maker, which is what happened with Boucheron here. And that's very important because it makes the item the legal responsibility of a specific person. So if the item is not, in fact, 18 karat yellow gold, if it's mixed with other base metals, there is a certain person to blame. And the link of an item to a person with a hallmark is basically deterrent from...
Well, it won't get hallmarked if
Yeah.
it's not up to that standard.
Exactly, yeah.
So it will go back to the maker
Yeah.
and say that it's not right. Now, it's interesting in France,
Mm-hmm.
the hallmarking in France can work a bit differently. It's usually the responsibility of the atelier, the maker, to actually, they get approved by the French hallmarking authorities, is my understanding of it, and they can actually hallmark their own things. So whereas in Ireland, you take something to the assay office, they stamp it for you and give it back to you. The assay office in France basically say that, okay, you're very good at what you do. We are trusting you with we've looked at your processes and your procedures, and we trust you to actually hallmark your own stuff. So it's a big thing in France to get that authority. And why is that important? It's a big step for Boucheron, right? Because he's now stepping up a level, but also making his own things.
Yes.
So whereas before, and it was a clever way of doing business when you get started, borrowing stuff, as I said, all those other fancy words for it, APRO, memo, sale or return, SOR, whatever, borrow is actually what it is. Ultimately, it's not great for the consumer, right? Because there's two profits in it, right? So the person you're borrowing it from is making money and you have to make something on it. So typically stuff that's on SOR, it costs more. And it also, you make less, right? So this is a big step for him, making his own things. Meant he's cut out the profits that were going to the other people. And also he started making his own designs as well. So stylistically, it was also important.
For sure. A milestone in his journey. What else is also a milestone in his journey, Matthew, is his participation in big fairs. So we have seen him starting from the age of 14, working as a sales assistant, opening his own shop in 1858. He becomes a maker. He creates his own jewelry in 1866. And he feels very confident. He has established himself. Basically, he wants to show the world what he's capable of doing. He starts participating in those fairs. And the first one he takes part in is the year after he creates his mark, his maker's mark, and that is the Paris International Exposition in 1867. And he actually wins a gold medal during that exhibition. So very, very impressive. He just started, he just created his maker's mark, and now he's getting awarded for his work. Yeah. I wonder how Duchamp was feeling about this whole...
Well, I know how Boucheron was feeling about it. He was delighted.
For sure.
Delighted. I think one of the reporters actually noted, and I'm just going to read out this exact text of what they noted about Boucheron's work. Meticulous craftsmanship and a beginning full of promise. I think that's a really insightful, and you can imagine what the feeling in the atelier shop would have been when they got this gold medal, and that commentary would have given them real confidence, I think, to keep going the way they're going, but also to probably experiment more, I'd say.
For sure. Experiment more, show France what he was capable of, but also the world as well, because these exhibitions, they attracted people from all over the world. And we know that the people who attended this particular one were royalty from all around Europe and beyond. Like we had the Tsar Alexander II, we had the King of Prussia there, we had the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Oh. So that was the perfect setting for Boucheron to showcase what he's capable of doing. So a very important stage in his journey for sure.
I couldn't agree more, Ch. I think these fairs are really, really fundamental, especially in a world that didn't have internet, didn't have social media, didn't have I had print media, but the fairs were your leading advertising in a way. And what was the next one, Fenia?
The next one was 1878, the Paris Exposition in 1878. And Boucheron also excelled there. And I see that he actually created a very impressive sapphire and diamond necklace that year, Matthew, 159 carats. And we actually have a Boucheron book with us at the moment to look at the pictures while we're talking to you about them to you guys. And you can find the necklace there. It is set with diamond ribbons and it has foliage motifs, and it was made for the wealthy American customer Marie Louise Marquet. I think that's the one.
That's the one.
I believe that's the one. Yeah.
Wow. So what I'm looking at here, Fenia, it's what a book. We've got a book here. It's just called Boucheron: 4 Generations of a World-Renowned Jeweler, Rizzoli of New York, and this one is by Gilles Neret. Really nice book. I've pulled this one out quite a few times in the past, actually. But this necklace, what we're looking at, this incredible sapphire was 159 carats. That was 11 years later. Like from a new business who just opened an atelier to having 159 carat sapphire like this. But it's not just this. You got this oval sapphire, which is in a cluster setting, and then it's got rounds, sapphires dotted up towards an inner necklace. So you've got this big pendant, and it's got like round sapphires attached at the side, but there's an inner necklace in that as well, which has the cushion cut sapphires in a full Revere necklace. And then the back of it also has a lot of details. So I've seen that once or twice lately, like jewellery on the red carpet. The back of the necklace is nearly as impressive as the front. And in this one looks like it as well. Really, really impressive. Really beautiful one. And Marie Louise Mackay. Before we started this episode, the one story I remember hearing about Boucheron in great depth before was about this lady, Mary Louise Mackay. She bought the jewellery. Like so much incredible stones of all types. Like that necklace was one, but there was lots and lots of others. But if I'm remembering correctly, she actually didn't wear the jewellery, or very, very rarely wore it. She actually liked to just keep it at home. And every so often she'd just take it all out and go through it and just admire it at home in like an ornamental fashion more than anything, which I think is quite interesting because obviously jewellery is made to be worn, but she got as much thrill out of the admiration of it as she did of actually wearing it.
It's very interesting. Do you know what reminds me of? The episode we did on Andy Warhol a couple of months ago.
Yes.
Matthew and I did an episode on Andy Warhol and his collection. And if you're interested in learning more, you can definitely check it out. He had a large collection. He was basically a hoarder. And he had the same tendency as Mackie, as Marie Louise. So he hid his jewellery in his apartment, then took it out once in a while to take a look at it, but never really wore it in public.
Yeah, and he had a secret stash.
Secret stash as well.
Stash, yeah. Which you'll have to listen to that episode if you want to hear about the secret stash. We should do it. It's really good. So then there was the 1889 Exposition Universelle, Grand Prix again. That's when the question mark necklace came out. We'll get into the jewellery now in just a moment. Then he did another show in 1900, Exposition Universelle as well, and he got a gold medal for Art Nouveau display. Also got showered with medals from exhibitions in Vienna, Antwerp, Philadelphia, which a big thing. Go over to America to a fair, let me tell you.
Yeah, you would know for sure. But that's also very important. The fact that he has started exhibiting in other regions outside of France. So that's a testament to how well he was doing. And I see that they also, like the firm, participated in the famous 1925 exhibition, the Arts Décoratifs, which, as people know, like jewelry enthusiasts know, it was the exhibition that established the name for the Art Deco movement. Although we have to say that it was not Frederic Boucheron that participated in that last exhibition, it was his son. Frederic died in 1902, if I'm not mistaken, but his son did like excellently as well. He proved that he is very well able to continue the legacy and make his father like proud. So a very important exhibition in many ways.
We have to mention the move from Palais Royal to Place Vendome,
Yes.
which was Place Vendome, beautiful area in Paris. They moved there in 1893, and Boucheron was the first jeweler to open on this square. He chose number 26 because it's got the best sunlight,
Yes.
which is a really interesting thing to think about if you're buying a shop. You'd think you'd walk in, you'd look, oh, is the space good? Is it, has it got ample window display? Has it got this? Has it got that? But he was like, I wonder, is the sunshine good? But it's actually dead right, because there's a jeweler around the corner from here, antique jeweler dealer, very good dealer, and his windows are basking in the sunshine in the morning to about lunchtime, depending on the time of the year, and it does look fantastic, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a very smart move. And I just want to read, I just want to read you one thing there. I saw a note about this Place Vendome shop, which is quite interesting. And there's some pictures of the interior actually, and it looks really incredible. But I'm just looking at the book here, the Boucheron book. The building that Frederic chose was an old mansion that had once belonged to René Bouton, a general tax collector for Amiens in the 18th century. And the last resident before them had been the Contessa Virginia Verassi de Castiglione, famous for her beauty and turbulent society life under the Second Empire. Scandalous. But what's interesting is that Power Score townhouse, where we're based, was also a tax office before it was an antique jewellery shopping centre.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Fascinating. So a connection between Courteville and Boucheron. I think that the decision to move to Place Vendome was also like an indication of how business savvy Boucheron was, because it was not only like a big square. It was also it was positioned very well in the city. If you go to their website, at the Boucheron website, they mention the ladies of high society would stroll down this plaza, would cross this plaza to go to a garden that it's positioned right under it, called, I think, Tuileries. The gardens of Tuileries.
Garden de Tuileries.
Tuileries,
yeah.
Yes. And
Jardin de Tuileries, yeah.
Yeah. All the high society would socialize there. These gardens were like connected to the palace of Napoleon III and Empress Eugenie. So Boucheron was very smart moving his window shops there, because all those ladies would see what he had what he had for sale. So very, very important.
And then I think the other, couple of other key parts of the history of Boucheron: French crown jewel sale, which was arguably a little bit scandalous. The stones related to the fall of an empire, but they're invited to bid at the auction, and Frederic acquired several of the diamonds, including the Grand Mazarin, a stone that had passed from Cardinal Mazarin in 1661, being worn by Empress Marie-Louise in 1810, and later by Empress Eugenie. During the Second Empire. And Boucheron bought it for his own wife, Gabrielle. So that's a nice gift, I'd say. And I suppose you can't talk about kind of the history of Boucheron if you don't talk about the Maharaja of Patiala, the Great Commission in 1928. I heard about this. So, because the thing about it in a shop, and you never know what's going to happen, right? And this Maharaja of Patiala arrived at numerous guards one day at Boucheron's store, right? And this is important because it's one of these things that sets them apart, right? A great legacy for the business, and it would have been a huge job at the time. These trunks full of all types of gems you could imagine, big sapphires, emeralds, rubies, and he asked Boucheron to make it all into jewellery. And he came up to almost 150 designs, 149 designs, everything from belts to tiaras and everything in between. So probably literally everything in between. And this is one of the most famous commissions of all time in jewellery history. If you can picture it, you're in the shop and someone just comes in with guards and trunks of gemstones. It's like, please make just something of all of these stones. That's just a wild thing to happen.
And not just somebody, it's the Maharaja of Patiala.
Yeah.
And like this guy is extremely, extremely famous. And I'm pretty sure that all jewelry enthusiasts must have heard his name. Matthew and I are very well acquainted with the name because we visited an exhibition last year, Matthew, at the V&A. And we saw like a very impressive necklace that was commissioned for the Maharaja by Cartier.
Yeah.
So that year that the Maharaja went to Boucheron and just dumped all of the jewels into his doorstep, he also went to the Cartiers and asked them to do the same. And this guy is so famous for his lavish lifestyle, very famous for his love for beautiful women and for fast cars, and of course for beautiful jewelry. And when it comes to the latter, he really, really appreciated precious jewels, but he wanted them to be set by the best artisans in Europe in a way that combines the Art Deco style that was very popular, has just started in France, but also like Indian techniques. And he obviously trusted Cartier to do this job for him. And Boucheron was one of the people with whom he collaborated as well. And I can see in our notes that Boucheron came up, Louis Boucheron, the son, came up with 149 designs for the Maharaja.
Wow. Jewel set, collared, strand necklace, belts, tiaras, turbans, and aigrettes, and a lot of other things, I'd say, too. What an incredible story. And it just shows that Boucheron, they could really do it all. Svenny, we've heard, he had an illustrious career. He got the shows, he got the shop move, he opened his own atelier. Like in a difficult start maybe as well, or it could have been a different way. But now let's focus on the jewellery. That's what we're all here for, really. The jewellery. What is, if you had to describe like the quintessential Boucheron style, what way would you go about that?
I would mention the word wearability for sure. It seems that Boucheron was very focused on creating pieces that were technically and aesthetically pleasing, for sure, but also pieces that were comfortable. And again, if you go to their archives, if you visit their website, of course, they have a section where they talk about the history of their house. And they do focus a lot on this aspect of creating pieces that are easy to wear and comfortable to wear. And they trace this characteristic of their pieces to the fact that Boucheron, Frederic, was coming from a family that was creating dresses for people, from dressmakers. So he was very well aware that you should be able to wear your jewelry as easily as you're wearing a dress.
That reminds me of Tavernier, actually. Like the maps, and he grew up in that store with the all these objects from foreign lands, and the focus on the cartography. And Boucheron grew up in a place where it was a lot of cloth and drapery, for want of a better word, and their early childhood experiences really guided almost the rest of their life completely. I think you're dead right. He made jewelry very wearable, and I think technically, I think there's two things that stick out for me with any Boucheron piece that I've seen. Technically, always like top class, like very well made. Used a lot of unusual materials. Plique-a-jour, very typical Boucheron from like the early 1900s and 20s. And then also the way they looked. There's a distinctive like Boucheron look. If you pick up a piece of Boucheron jewelry, you almost know it's Boucheron before you even check the marks. It has a flair to it, but it also is always so wearable. Like you might necessarily pick it up and think, how's that going to work? But then it's just so fluid and well designed. And I think that comes from what you said, from the fact that he was brought up in a drapery. So how fabrics feel when you wear them. That's what makes it stand apart for me, like the look coupled with the wearability. And I think that for me would be the quintessential Boucheron look.
So why was his jewelry so innovative? Why do we focus on wearability so much? I think we should highlight that we're talking about an era where women need handmaids, like ladies' maids, to help them wear their clothes and jewelry. Right now, we are at the beginning of the 20th century. I have been talking about Louis, the Art Deco movement in terms of fashion, revolutionized dressmaking. Women got rid of their corsages and they would wear loose garments. But Frederic came from an era, from a generation where dresses didn't look and didn't function like that. I'm pretty sure that his father created pieces that looked beautiful, but they were much more rigid. So I feel that the house was very much aware of the trends in fashion and what women desired to wear at the time. And I decided that it's the time to apply this wearability and that ease of putting on pieces of clothing to jewelry. So that's very important, and that's a very good way to distinguish Boucheron pieces, because these are pieces you can put on by yourself.
Completely, Fanny. I think it's the nail on the head. They're easy. Just ease of wearing them, and I think maybe some of the best way that you know you've got a quality piece of jewelry on is that you don't even know you're wearing it, right? And if I could take an example that we have in the shop at the moment, right? We have a 50 carat aquamarine in a heavy gold setting. There's about $10,000 euros worth of gold in the setting. It's huge, right? You know this ring, the aquamarine one, the big massive one with the chunky gold setting.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a giant ring. You'd look at that and go, that is going to be really weird to wear. Like, I'm going to feel like I've got a brick hanging out of my hand, right? But it actually doesn't at all. You put that on, you don't even notice you're wearing it. And it's a solid ring, but it's so fluid and well made and contoured and shaped that you just don't really realize that you're wearing it, despite the fact that it's a giant ring. We've had smaller rings that feel clunky when you're wearing them, right? And you put it on, you're like, oh, it's like, whoa, what is on my hand, right? Now we sell those off, not through the store, let me tell you. But that's, I think, what Boucheron could do with the wearability. Take these designs that look like really striking. You think, how do I wear them, or how are they going to feel? But they just feel amazing. And as a final point on that, jewelers get really enthusiastic about things that have great fluidity and great articulation, right? And you'll remember there was a dealer in the shop the other day, one from Milan, right? And I don't know if you saw this. He had this bracelet that they made, right? They have a manufacturing arm as well. He had this bracelet, right? And had it looked like little flowers, and they're pieced together with little diamonds in between the flowers all the way. And he says to me, he goes, Matt, look at this bracelet. Look at the way it moves. I didn't like the bracelet personally because it wasn't antique, so it's not that we're into the antiques, right? Typically because they're better, right? But this was beautifully made bracelet. And he was just like, look at the way it moves. Like he draped it over his wrist, and it literally, like, it didn't fall in a block. It slowly draped down over the wrist, and it was so beautifully made and fluid. And it did great goldsmiths in Italy now these days. I can tell you, in the north of Italy, they make some beautiful jewelry. But that element, that fluidity and wearability that this company have, they're great at making the jewels wearable. And I think that Boucheron had that, coupled with that real, like, stylish, eccentric look. And I think that's when we're talking about wearability, that's what it means to me, that you can wear these incredible pieces of jewelry, but you don't barely even notice that you're wearing them. I mean, you notice you're wearing them because people will be looking at you going, oh my God, that's an incredible piece of jewelry. But you don't feel them on you, like, you know. Other techniques that they used, Plique-a-jour enamel, that's translucent enamel. Incredible technique. I think I get a few more grey hairs every time we have a fine piece of Plique-a-jour enamel in the shop, because I'm always worried that we're going to break it. It is beautiful. We obviously look after it very well.
I find it very interesting that Boucheron, apparently Boucheron is linked in the minds of its consumers of its clients with Plique-a-jour enamel. And I'm looking in the research. Apparently this was a lost technique, Matthew, for many, many years. It was very popular during the Middle Ages, and we know, and the Renaissance, and we have like documentation by a goldsmith called Cellini, who wrote about how to replicate it. But many people like couldn't actually follow the instructions of Cellini for many, many years up until the 19th century. And apparently the patent was sold later on to Boucheron. And this gave to the house basically a monopoly over the technique. I'm not sure if this is correct, but if it is, it's very, very impressive. And it definitely draws lots of people to their shop for something that's so historic and so difficult to replicate.
It's so striking. Enamel work like that really is. You need to look it up. Some Plique-a-jour enamel pieces from Boucheron, or any good Plique-a-jour enamel work. I could see why that would make it so striking. And yeah, it's true. A lot of amazing enamel work happened in the medieval time period and was lost.
So that's basically, so Plique-a-jour, Matthew, like explain this to me a little bit. So it looks like stained glass, right? So you have pieces that have like rods and the glass is situated between those hollow spaces. You don't have a setting that has a closed back, right?
Correct. Anytime I think of a Plique-a-jour enamel, I always think of the wings of like a butterfly or like a dragonfly or something like that. And okay, you've got like the striations going through the wings, which is usually made of gold, but the actual color of the wings in these pieces is made with Plique-a-jour enamel. If you hold it up to a window with sunshine in, the sun will shine straight like through it, like it's translucent. Yeah, and there's other types of enamel, guilloché, cloisonné, where there is a backing, but the Plique-a-jour does not have a backing. It's highly technical to do. I mentioned before in another podcast about that there's this incredible Plique-a-jour enamel piece of jewellery in an auction that I went to see, and I dropped my phone on it. I nearly broke it. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's translucent, looks like stained glass, but can have also like the colors can like shift through it. So it can like start off as like a green and kind of morph into a blue and into different colors. So you can have these incredible gradients of color going through it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very smooth. It's almost like kind of an orient effect, like oil on water. You can have that kind of a shifting color. It's really makes incredible jewelry, very popular in the Art Nouveau period. Delicate though. You need to be careful with Plique-a-jour because it's essentially like kind of would behave like glass. You can break it. And exactly as you said, Fenia, and I think it's important, they had a monopoly on it. This incredibly striking technique and no one else could do it. So it was good for business.
He was also the business was very popular and renowned for its diamond engraving. And I was actually having a conversation with Matthew before we started recording on the technicalities behind diamond engraving. So like we have this perception that diamonds are very, very durable stones. And in my head, it's extremely hard. You can basically do whatever you want to do with it and it won't break. Like it would endure almost everything. So I was very much surprised when you told me that there is a lot of difficulty and you have to be very capable when you're engraving a diamond because it can
It's very hard to do because there's two things to consider here, right? Gemstones they have a level of hardness, but there can also be a level of toughness. And diamonds are the hardest natural substance in the world. So that means if you rub it against anything, it'll scratch the other thing, not itself. But it doesn't mean they're unbreakable, right? So they won't scratch, but you can shatter them if you hit them really, really hard. Like really hard. And at a particular angle, they will break, right? So diamond engraving is essentially scratching a pattern into the surface of a diamond. So it's the only material you can use to do it is another diamond. And as you scratch it, it's hard to leave a crisp line. You can chip off little bits as you try and scratch it because it's so hard. It's actually hard to get it's difficult to get the lines into it. But Boucheron were a specialist at this. I didn't actually realize this until we did the research. I've never seen one of their diamond engraved pieces, but apparently it was one of their key things.
What I find lovely is the fact that they actually managed to replicate the wings of butterflies or bees on diamonds. So they engraved diamonds in these shapes. You talked about Plique-a-jour, and you said that when you're thinking about Plique-a-jour, you think about the wings of a dragonfly or a butterfly. Boucheron extended this concept, and they actually managed to create diamond pieces that were like solid diamond, but they were in the shape of wings, which
Wow.
is so lovely as an idea.
It's so cool. And I think when you get into the lab grown diamond industry today, I think in time you will find big ornaments carved out of diamond. Like you might be able to get like a diamond vase in the future or something like that, which will certainly be interesting to see how people can do that because still diamond. But of course, natural high quality gems engraved like that is a different story. So Fenia, there are some incredible techniques. Let's now look at some of their most iconic pieces. Question mark, which one will we start with? Yeah.
That was a good one.
For our listeners, this is an iconic Boucheron piece. What is someone going to see if they look at the question mark necklace, and why is it so important?
So, like, we talked a lot about wearability and jewelry that you can put on with ease. And I think that's a quintessential example of Boucheron craftsmanship when it comes to that. The question mark necklace, or as they call it, the point d'interrogation. Yeah. So this one was created. It was first drawn in 1879. It's basically an asymmetrical necklace that wraps around your neck very, very elegantly and drops down quite low in the chest. At first glance, it might look a little bit. You might get a little bit of like you might get stressed that it will fall out of your neck. Not at all. It's very, very secure, claspless, and it has a very intricate mechanism of small interlocking components that would develop exclusively in Boucheron's workshop that allow the necklace to wrap around your neck and stay there. It's very, very secure. Boucheron experimented with different designs when it comes to this piece. They have replicated many, many times. They still produce it 140 years after its creation. It's still one of the most iconic and beloved Boucheron pieces. So they have experimented with different designs. We have foliage motifs and animal motifs. So we know that Boucheron got lots of plaudits for the creation of this piece in the 1889 exhibition that he participated, and one of the first actually purchasers of this piece was the Grand Duke Alexandrovich of Russia. We mentioned that Boucheron had the chance to exhibit his pieces to many people all around the world, Europe and beyond, during those exhibitions, and this piece was actually purchased by like a Russian duke. So very, very impressive. And they still do replicate it. If you go to their website, you will see different variations of it. It's very, very beautiful. And may I say, very sensual as well. The way it wraps around your neck and sits very low on your chest. Gorgeous piece.
And if I think when I look at the pictures of it there, and there's different varieties, if that was sitting on the table over there and you didn't know anything about it, you might not know it's a necklace. You'd look at me like, oh, that's because it's not connected. It uses balance and design to kind of keep it in place. But I'm looking at a few videos of it here on the Boucheron. Yeah, they look amazing. Like it looks really great. So
completely innovative, especially considering that, as we mentioned, you had to use a lady's maid to put on necklaces back in the day. The fact that you can just drape it around your neck as if you're wearing a shawl or something, which is like a testament to the background of Boucheron, the fact that he was coming from a dressmaking house.
Yeah, that sums up a lot of the history actually in a piece of jewellery, I think, of Boucheron. Another iconic piece, the 159 carat sapphire diamond necklace. We mentioned that, the Marie-Louise Mackay necklace. Incredible piece of jewellery. The Grand Mazarin diamond, bought from the French Crown Jewels, given to his wife, Gabrielle. Another iconic piece. Incredible diamond.
Incredible history as well. Like Mazarin, Cardinal Mazarin was one of the people who used to run France back in the day during the 17th century. The fact that Boucheron managed to get his hands onto a piece like that and gift it to his wife, what a lucky woman. What an impressive piece of jewellery.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to. Your next Christmas gift would be pretty difficult if you gave your wife that, I'd imagine. You've set the bar pretty high, which we're all for. And then I should just quickly mention then their current collection. They've got this Fleur Éternelle. so hard to say two French words just out of the blue. Like, you nearly have to get into character, don't you? Like, this fleur éternel, real flower petals stabilized without pigments or chemicals, scanned individually with titanium structures built to hold them, a secret process kept by the Maisons. So eternal flowers is the translation. If you look at these, they look literally like flowers. They're obviously not. They're made to be jewelry and to be worn. They've got gemstones set in the center. Highly innovative, sticking, I think, true to their soul and their ethos. Very, very interesting design. Then you've got Goutte de Ciel. They're using aerogel, a material composed of 99.8% of air. It's used by NASA to capture stardust in space. It's encapsulated in rock crystal shell to recreate the color of a changing color of a sky. So again, like, highly innovative. They use kind of holographique in 2021 that's another range that they released. Rock crystal and ceramic treated with a high temperature spray of silver and titanium oxides, changing color with the light and the viewing angle. So like, they're really pushing boundaries today like they did over 150 years ago. So let's just see, just to finish up, I think we'll talk about a little bit of the legacy of Boucheron. So from when Frederic Boucheron started the business, he died in 1902, passed on to his son Louis. They went through 4 generations of Boucheron ownership, and eventually now today it's owned by a company called Kering, a kind of global conglomerate thing. But Boucheron very much have their own identity within that, which of course they have to be. And I think, Fenia, maybe let's just read out some of the clients that Boucheron have had. Like, socially, they've really touched every level of high society, haven't they?
For sure, from glamorous actresses to royals, Boucheron they should definitely feel very proud about their clientele. So we have Sarah Bernard and Oscar Wilde, and we have John Crawford and Edith Piaf.
Je ne regrette rien.
Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, we have the Astors, the Rothschilds, the Duchess of Marlborough, Princess Grace of Monaco, and we have Queen Elizabeth II as well.
So, like, pretty amazing. I don't know how there's nothing to say about that client list other than that it's pretty amazing. And today their creative director is Claire Choisny, and the fleur éternel and the use of aerogel, I think, is down to her. But I think a final thought from all we've talked about, the innovative jewelry, Fenia, and the amazing clients and the iconic pieces. For me, I think we got to spare a moment just to think about the 1858, wasn't it? 1858.
1858, the year he opened his own shop.
He was expecting to take over Deschamps' business, which would have been a comfortable, easy follow through. He kind of knew the clients. Well, he could have continued that comfortably and maybe would never heard of him, right? But no, it didn't work out. He went off, raised 100,000 francs and gave this business a go, creating jewelry. And from the start, they've always dealt with the unusual, the striking, a little bit eccentric. And I think we just need to spare a thought to that moment in 1858 where he took the plunge. And we're very grateful that he did. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you are following us on your podcast platform of choice. And don't forget, we have got our new dedicated Gem Pursuit website, gempursuit.com. Well worth checking it out if you're looking for some extra information or for some behind the scenes content. And we're also on Instagram at Gem Pursuit Pod. I'd like to thank Fenia for joining me today. Fenia, thank you very much. I'd like to thank Colin Weldon for video, Veronique Gauguin for research, and Ross Hannon of Tape Deck for producing the episode. But for me, Matthew Weldon, for now, all the very best and happy hunting.